All right. Looks like we are live and up and running. Let me get everything switched over to the layout, and we will take a look at today's experiment for this drawing stream. All right, let me turn on background music. And I think that is everything we need to be set up and good to go. So today's going to be, like I said, an experiment. We're going to try something a little bit different today for today's drawing stream. I've mentioned on a couple other streams up till now, kind of here or there, that I really like pixel art. I think it's a really cool art form and really cool medium, and I'm not very good at it. And at some point, well, I'd say in the last 6 months or so, one of my VTuber peers I rated was using this particular program to work on sprite art, and they recommended I give it a try. And so what we have here is a program called Aseprite. And I had never heard of this one before. I've only ever attempted pixel art in Photoshop, and I know how to kind of do that and how to basically make it do what I want. But this particular software is a lot more simple, and it's specifically designed for creating pixel art. You can set up canvases at resolutions. We'll kind of take a look. I don't know a lot about this program. This is more or less the second time I've attempted to mess around with it. All right, let me figure out why my tablet keeps displacing my cursor and putting it over there. Every time that happens, I need to reconfigure my tablet. I don't know why it does that. Let me do this real quick. There we go. I gotta figure out where my shortcut buttons are, because this is normally configured for Photoshop. Oh. That's what it is. That switches monitors. That's supposed to be undo. Undo's down here. Okay. I will need to remember that. It's not a calibration issue. It's an actual toggle between monitors, at least in this particular program. And so today's going to be a bit of an experiment, like I mentioned at the start. It'll be tinkering around with some of the commands in Aseprite and seeing if we could figure out how to create some things and explore the basic functions of the program. I did a little bit of research looking at some tutorials and figuring out navigation and stuff, and it's not too different from your standard graphics programs, but it's a little bit more specific, and so we'll see. Another thing that's kind of interesting about the way this one is designed, it seems like this one is geared more towards animation as well. So I've always wanted to do animated pixel graphics for different things, and I haven't quite figured out all the ins and outs, but it has to do with the layer function down here. You can't see my cursor. In the lower left, let me see if I can turn my cursor on here. Oh, maybe it's just really faint. Yeah, you can kind of see it. It's hard to see on the broadcast, but in the lower left, there's a layer system. You can basically draw your images from what I've gathered, and then you treat it kind of like onion skins and frames of animation. And that's definitely something I know Wazi would be familiar with, because Flash does that as well. You're essentially doing frames, and when you're doing animation frame by frame, you're altering each iteration using things like onion skins, which this one does as well, this program. But you're able to edit stuff and string together an actual animation. And I think you can do that to create sprite sheets as well. I'm not there yet from the limited amount of time I've spent tinkering around with this program. I want to learn how to just basically draw still images and get used to all of the different commands for doing that. And then from there, I will figure out how to do animated stuff. And if I can get everything configured, I wouldn't mind doing some things with stream avatars, which allows you to create pixel animated avatars for the chat. And that could be something we look at in the future as well. But for now, it's basically going to be seeing how to navigate the program and how to get it to do what I need, and then we'll kind of see where things go from there. Okay, we can turn the grid on. Guess that's not entirely necessary. I turn it off. What if we just make the size of the canvas? No, that just makes the entire size. Let me see if I can figure out how to undo what I just did. Now, let's see first. Let's undo. I don't see just a toggle. That's not a big deal. I don't really need a grid. I was just curious if I could do it like one by one, which I'm sure you could set up if you do the grid settings and do it pixel by pixel. You could do something like 1 by 1 for a really small grid. If you wanted to do it, let's see what this one. There, deselects up here. My deselect hotkey on my tablet is right above my hotkey for switching windows, which is not the most handy, but it's okay. All right, so we've got our base canvas, and what I've done here is, this is a large size canvas. I'm doing a 250 by 250. This is a pretty big resolution, but I want to be able to work at a large enough scale that I can try and draw some things at higher detail. And so on the right, we've got our basic navigation menu, and got selection tool, brush tool, eraser tool. There is an eyedropper, zoom tool, move tool. This is paint bucket, line, rectangle. Just draw a regular rectangle. Yep. Similar to paint. A lot of the commands are kind of a mix between Photoshop and Paint, it looks like. Contour. Ah, okay, so this will fill in sections. It's like a close curve fill tool. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And then blur. So I wonder if that causes anti-aliasing. Yep. If we wanted to create some tonal variation just like we would with any other blur tool. I guess that's what we use that for. Okay, well, stick with the pencil tool. Actually, working at this scale, let's just kind of mess around with like free drawing some things and get a feel. This is gonna be pretty familiar based on every other program I've used. I get the feeling when it comes to some of the shading tools, which I did watch a tutorial on shading tools. That will probably be something a little more unique. And in the past, what I've been most familiar with when it comes to pixel art is doing kind of bounded or lined pixel art. I don't know if that's the official term, but pixel art that has, you know, an actual outline and then features. I'm going to try and learn how to do things lineless since this is a new program. And we have a stretch redeem from Lava King. Alright. What's up, Lava King? Welcome to the stream. Hope your Wednesday is going well. It also seems like, unlike Photoshop, which is, again, what I'm used to doing this particular type of art in, the layers system in Aseprite is set up more for like frames of animation as opposed to individual layers within an image. So I'm essentially working all on one layer as a result, which is going to be interesting. Normally I'm used to having line art on its own layer, colors, and shading on their own respective layers and having it all be composited that way, just like you would in Clip Studio, like you would in Photoshop, I think Psy. All of those kind of have a hierarchical structure. I don't think Aseprite really works that way. Loving says, yo, it's okay. Okay is good. We'll take okay. So again, taking the idea that we're doing this lineless, I want to see if I can replicate a potential avatar to use for Space Bees. Lava King says, pixel art is just like Minecraft, just think 2D. Well, the problem is, you're right. You're right in that it is, you know, block by block if you think of it that way. The problem is if you're not doing it by reference. So if you were doing, let's say, you know, like the pixel art in Minecraft, you wanted to do like a Mario sprite. And, you know, let's say, you know, I'm not going to try and draw Mario, but you can take an image or an actual literal sprite and work pixel by pixel because you have a reference. If you're doing it freehand, you have to basically wing it, which is not hard. But again, you have to think of it kind of in sections, if that makes sense. And I'll probably do more research on what techniques people use. I found an interesting one, which is what I'm trying to follow here, where you basically do it kind of like painting. You put down each layer and then you add in each additional detail and shading and whatnot as you go part by part. And it'd be nice. Let me see if I can change the background. I'm used to working with a white background. Let's see. I could just turn it off, turn the checkerboard pattern off completely, that would be nice. And I know you can set up the initial template that way, so there's got to be a way to just toggle it off. If not, it's not a big deal. It's just going to require me to pay a little bit more attention to my colors, since some of the colors are going to be similar to the checkerboard. Yeah, that's just the settings, dimensions of the grid. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it for now. Maybe we go a little bit lighter. We'll go lighter on the helmet. That way we can use the darker color for the legs and have it not quite blend in. Our color palette and kind of color wheel down here in the lower left is just like we've seen on most other programs. That's pretty consistent as well. Okay, that'll allow us to move around a little bit. Actually, I can see if I can grab a command for turning off the background as I get other colors added in here that are similar to the checkerboard. I'd like to be able to turn that off. I'll just Google it. Oh, this is saying add a layer. That might be one way to do it. Or I can add another one and put a white backdrop behind it. That's what I'm going to try and do. So I figure out how to do that. New layer. Let's see if we just do a fill. Okay, that'll work. I just gotta move it so that they're in the right order. Call this BG so I don't forget which one it is. Okay, no, that's just hides. There we go. Left, right click and hold will allow you to move stuff around. There we go. Lava King says, so Raku, if you're looking for music inspiration in a tech vibe, I recommend listening to Information High by Sharon Apple. I have never heard of Sharon Apple. Link it in the Discord. Put it in media share, and I'll check it out. All right, let's keep adding some details to this space bee here. We'll add a actual glass to the helmet here. Put some antenna and kind of round the shape out a little bit. And what I'm going to do is take this as a base and then add a shading layer, kind of experiment around with adding shadows on top. But for that, we want to make sure we've kind of roughed out all of the main colors, and then from there we will add a shading layer. Lava King asks, Rock, are you making a regular bee or some kind of cyber bee or a bee with a tough guy face? So the name for all of you folks who are members of my community are the space bees. And so this is essentially a potential pixel version of all of you. And then if I can get stream avatars working on here, then we would be able to create kind of custom avatars for all the members of chat. So because you all are the space bees, we're going to start with kind of just learning how to draw stuff out, and then that is potentially something I'm going to use as an asset in the future. So I guess the first answer to your question is it's space bee, but it's supposed to be all of you. Lava King says, yo, that's wicked. I love wasps. All right. I want to be clear. You guys are space bees, not space wasps. Bees are industrious and productive. They give honey, they help pollinate flowers, and they are a good presence in nature. Wasps are jerks. They do not offer much positive benefits to nature and society. They build nests. They will attack people if they smell food. They are very aggressive. We're talking about honeybees, not wasps. I know they're the same species, but specifically yellow jackets. We have yellow jackets where I live, and when it gets warm, they start building nests. They get everywhere. They'll seek out food if you're grilling or whatnot. They're pests. They don't pollinate. They just multiply and invade. Regular bees, honeybees, bumblebees, they're cool. But wasps are aggressive pests and predators. Just look at the Suzumebachi, the giant Asian killer murder hornets. They are an aggressive species that will destroy regular bee colonies. So that's not you folks. You folks are cool. Hence representation of bees. Okay, let's make sure we save our work. Love King says, I wonder if anybody showed Raku the bee, Common Rider named the bee. I've heard of the bee. It might have been Snake that sent me a link or a reference to the bee a long time ago, but I am aware. It is thematically correct. Obviously, for something like Kamen Rider, where there's a lot of like insect-themed characters and outfits, it makes sense that there'd be a bee-themed one. Okay, let's keep adding some detail before we go in and start shading. And let's see. Zooming out, this is actually a pretty high resolution sprite. That might be, well, I don't know. We'll see. I can worry about scaling and stuff when I eventually get the program to do stream avatars running and see what kind of limitations it has. First, let's work on getting an image together, and then maybe what we can do as a way to sort of segue into what I'd like to do for the community is have a base. We'll work off of a base. You know, that'll be this one. Nope, that's not the one I want. And then we can create some customized ones. And Lava King, since you're here, maybe we can test that out with yours first and come up with a customized Space Bee avatar for you. And I know you've given me some OC information and avatar stuff, so maybe we can work that in as a potential idea. But let's finish the detailing on this thing first. I want to get a shading layer together. So we'll go here. We'll darken this up a little bit. That might be a little too dark. And we'll get some shading on the actual visor or helmet. It's basically a bee with a helmet. And you can add maybe like a highlight. Now moving further down, the body we'll need to add a shade layer on the yellow parts. That's definitely too dark. We don't need to add a shading layer to the black stripes since we can't get darker than that. We can do the wings. And we'll do kind of like a texture bit on here. It's like the kind of vein textures on insect wings. Now the legs. guess we could add in the other two. There's supposed to be 6 legs in total for the bee, but you can't see them because they're on the other side of the body. So maybe if we do something like, I think that obscures it a little bit. We'll leave that out for now. I think that'll do. The way I understand how this program works is this is treated as, layer 1. If we wanted to animate this and add another quote unquote frame of animation, which is not something I have a lot of experience doing, we would duplicate the layer. And I think the way it works is we would edit the next quote unquote frame of animation here. And then if we're flipping back and forth, these are the different frames of animation. And then we would basically be creating, first frame, second frame, and whatnot. I just don't know if Aseprite is designed to do that and then composite it itself, or if you take those frames and use it to create reference sheets. I haven't gotten that far yet. Because if we take this and just move it up, then that's the next frame of animation. Let's see. Well, that's not what I want. Okay, so you can't go back and delete or duplicate a previous cell or previous frame, rather. That's interesting. You have to keep creating new ones going forward and then putting each frame of animation there. So I'm just moving the bee around, kind of have it like flying around and jittering. What I'd ideally like to do if I was doing a fully mapped out sprite would be to have like the wings moving slightly, maybe the legs moving slightly so that it's not just jittering around. But for the sake of trying to figure out how this program works, okay, why did that one go away? What I'm doing is I'm creating additional frames and then just moving the bee around, and so we can actually see what it looks like. Again, I'm not exactly sure how Aseprite is designed to render out a full series of scenes or of frames of animation rather, but it does give us the ability to play them like a flip book. So if we do that, if it's running through frames 1 through 6 and it's doing it over and over again, this is what we get, which is kind of neat. It's just, it's a bee that's flying around. If we zoom out to get a better scale of what this thing looks like, maybe, there we go. Again, it's very very rough, approximate movements. It's not meant to be kind of a finalized series of animations. It's just playing around with what happens if you just move the object around in frame. But if we were doing something like an avatar sprite for the stream, then I'd probably limit it to a couple frames to have the bee kind of bobbing up and down and have it just fly around in a set pattern on the screen. But that is an interesting feature. Now, let me see. Oh, you can export as a sprite sheet. I wonder what that does. This looks like, yep, it is taken the whole thing and turned into a sprite sheet. Now, I think the reason why it looks like this is because it's using each instance of the canvas, and because the canvas is so large, it's taking each frame and it's sticking the whole thing on there. So ideally, we probably want to copy this into a smaller canvas so it's not doing that. But if we do that, what do I have to do to get it to actually render? Yeah, constraints, non-rows. Oh, output file as a ping. Okay. I'm probably going to have to figure out where it's sticking all of this stuff. But it looks like it's taken the sequence of frames and created an entire sheet from that. So if you're going to composite that into something else, I wonder if you can export these as GIFs. That would be interesting. You can export it as a GIF. Okay. Does it take all the frames and just create them as a loop? Oh. Doesn't support layers. Okay, this is basically saying you're gonna lose layer integrity if you do this. Animation loop, okay. Okay, stuck that in one of my drives. Oh no. That is where the program is located, I think. Let me see if I can figure out where it stuck that and just see what the output in the GIF is. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's stuck it in the same folder that I saved the main file. Interesting. So you can't see it because I don't have it displayed on screen, but it took all the frames and it made it into a GIF, a looping GIF. So I have a little. It's big because it's a 250 by 250 thing with a little bee in the corner. But it took the entire series of frames and it just rendered it out into a looping GIF. So that's handy to know. Okay, let's delete all these extra ones. And we'll save our progress. We'll call this base. This will be the one that I use for references. hide this. And if we go back in and sort of recenter, the way I want to kind of mess around with this here is by duplicating the base. This is what the basic quote-unquote space B default one is going to look like. And again, I may have to mess around with this later because let me see if I can see what are the dimensions of this. This is 60 by 53 pixels, which is not very large. I guess I'll have to experiment around with any limitations and see. But we can still mess around with this for the sake of experimenting today. And so, this is the one that we're going to customize. Now, I mentioned before that since Lava King was hanging out here, we can go and see what type of custom avatar would make sense for Lava King. A customized B here. Let me see. I know there was something that was in the Discord. I think it was some old avatar art. Yeah, okay, that's what I was looking for. Kind of like a demon avatar from the way Lava King had described that before. So we could try and adapt some ideas and swap out some details and see where that takes us here. First immediate thought would be, instead of just the regular antenna, Lava King says volcano demon. So I'm thinking like a red helmet with horns to start. So let me erase the details and just redefine the base helmet, and then we'll see. Because we don't want to go too crazy with the customization, or it'll take a long time to create different versions of these. But we want to make it unique so that, you know, every person can see, okay, this one is supposed to be my avatar. And I don't know how Stream Avatars works at all because I don't have the program yet. But I want to at least map out concepts so that, you know, if I have to redo this in a certain format or size for the program, I'll have a reference and I can just recreate it and it'll be fine. But if we practice drawing using the program, then I'll know how to do that quickly. So let's see, we'll go here. We'll just replace all the colors. Actually, I want that darker color. Then I'll start experimenting around with different details and form filling. Let's see, we want the shadow color here. What I may do between now and the next time I work on this stuff is set up some unique shortcuts on my tablet that'll correspond to this program specifically, because having brush on a button would be nice instead of having to go over here to the toolbar each time. But I'll worry about that later. So let's see. We want to change the base color of the helmet. For the actual glass or visor part, maybe we can do kind of an orange, like a volcanic color scheme. So instead of it being blue with a darker highlight, maybe we go orange with a more kind of burnt highlight around it like that. And for horns, let's It's a little light. Let's turn the background off and I can see easier. Like twin horns going up like this, and then I'll take that highlight off and probably move it. And we can add some light shading to the horns. There won't be a flat white color. And maybe we can add some kind of like maybe red tips to the claws, again, to match the helmet. Same color scheme. Do something like this. And then we go one shade darker. And how about a red stinger? Just for kicks. Alright, let's zoom out and take a look. Oh no, I need that highlight. I'll do that first. And put the highlight. Yeah, put a little more off to the side. And I know for the stream avatars, you can customize it and set it up so that the different avatars have like a name plate that goes with it. It's kind of like floating underneath or to the side. I don't know if you can choose where. But basically, you can have it so that people can see their avatars on the screen and they'll be able to see who it is too, so they won't have to guess. If we compare this one to the base, again, just as a pure concept, we could see the difference. And so what I'd like to do is something like this, where, you know, the one over here on the left, see my cursor, it would be the basic one, and then each person in the community has their own one like this that's got some sort of customization so you can see that it's yours. Malvin says, me very likey. Oh, good. I'm glad. Hopefully it's subtle enough but distinct that, you know, kind of matches with what you were talking about with your OC avatar. And Lava King asks, wait, Raku, if we're your swarm of bees, does that make you the swarm lord? I don't control the bees. I'm just here. Like, I don't tell you people what to do. And even if I did, would you listen? Like, if Wazoo was here, would she listen to me? Probably not. Interestingly enough, if you want some lore history, she's the one who coined that term. The reason why I decided from the Space Bees for my community name is because she created the running meme of my beatboxing noises being the result of bees. And so the bees became a central theme of my branding as a VTuber, just because I had no other branding when I started other than being an alien. And so bees became a running theme, and then I said, well, if bees are a running theme, then I think the community should be the space bees, and it just sort of stuck. So really, it was her fault. But it's a pretty cool brand, and so you've seen different iterations of that since I've been working on projects. And I have my other mascot, the big mechanical space bee, Echo, who's been on a couple of my things. That all evolved from that idea. Lava King says, Araku, you honestly think Mozzie listens to anyone? She's a child of chaos. Oh, I know, Lava King. I spent 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks in close proximity with Wazzy. I'm very well aware of how much she does or does not listen. Which is going to be quite interesting when I go up to Canada for Extra Life and I'm on her home turf. You can expect shenanigans. Okay, let's save this. And maybe what we can do is a reference sheet of a bunch of different ideas here. I may not go through every single regular that we have on stream, but it'd be cool to do a couple of these for folks that hang out here often. Let's see. Let's create another duplicate of the base one. Call this one 2. I'll have to go back and rename these to the person that they correspond to just so I don't forget. And we can hide you. Let's see. What if we did one for Sour Lad, aka the hardest working mod in show business? And I already have an idea of what I would do for Sour Lad. I'm just gonna have to be careful with the color paletting. I think for Sour Lad, a bee with a big lemon for a head. And maybe some other parts of the actual design, but instead of the regular helmet, like a big lemon, I think would be on brand. So let's see. We'll make it lighter than the main body so that it doesn't just blend in. You can delete the antenna. Maybe I'll put those back later. Lava King says, I found some old Avatar notes I made a while back while I was designing. Are you ready for more lava lore? Yeah, drop it in chat. I'm always interested to see what kind of lore people have for their characters. Let's see. Lemons have they have a stem, right? The top. Like a narrow stem. Quick, what does a lemon look like? Oh, they're kind of oblong shape. Oh, not really a stem. It's more like a little nub at the top. Like a little point at the bottom. Okay. And they're not really green. They're more brown. no, put the background back so I can see the color contrast. I wonder, I might be able to resize this canvas. I'm not going to use the full 250 for this one. Let's see. Can I do it without screwing up the resolution though? Let's see. Canvas size. What if we did 100 by 100? Oh, I can just size it like that. Let's see. Did that mess with anything I've done so far? Not so much, really. No. Okay. Yeah, that'll be a little bit easier to manage. Okay. I see that you put it in Media Share Lava King. I'll take a look at that after the stream. All right. Let's add some more details to Lemon Lad, Lemon Bee. Let's not do that. Make sure I'm on the right layer. What do you think? In addition to the lemon for a head, kind of like the idea of having like yellow highlight tipped legs as well. Same color scheme. Let me just add highlights. I'm going to send this to Sour Loud later. I'm sure he'll get a kick out of it. All right, let's sit down and take a look. Call this 2. Okay. I will keep it there. I'll keep all these lined up. I think that's pretty functional. Does it look like a lemon? As opposed to like a pineapple? Okay, we'll save our progress here. Let's see, you think we should do another one, or should I try and draw something else? Kind of like the idea of throwing together ideas for different community members just while they're fresh in my mind. And it's not necessarily that difficult to take one of the bases and just alter some details. It's actually fairly quick. Let's do one. Let's do another one. Let's keep going for a bit until I run out of ideas. Oh, I should probably try and do like a sprite for Tenpo too. I've done one in Photoshop, but I could probably do a little bit better here. Lava King says, how about a bee flag? That could be an interesting idea too. Let's see. I'm going to save this for now. And we'll create a new one. Same. Do the same dimensions. This is a big canvas. And we'll put a background. This is what I didn't do before. I just made it transparent by default. But if we put a background on it, then it's just there. I don't have to create a separate layer for it. Okay, now we're working back at a large resolution again. And I wonder, let me test something else. I was thinking if we had something we were working on. Will it let me render out or save sprite based on selection? Let's see, sprite sheet. Does not look like I can render by selection. Okay, I guess I'll just need to be aware of the canvas I'm working on. I'll figure that out later. If I'm just doing static sprite renders, it doesn't really matter versus if I'm doing something animated. Okay. We'll work at a little bit larger scale for this one. Kind of coming up with the idea of practicing at a larger scale. The bee avatar thing that we did is much smaller, but let's try and work at a larger scale because then I can mess around with things like shading. So I can increase my brush size over here. And do things like create whole circles just by increasing the size of the brush. So if we're working out, let's work. I'm way zoomed in. Zoom me out. All right, how do I reset the zoom window? Mouse wheel too. Weird. I wonder if I have to be on the toolbar in order for my scroll on my tablet to work. Okay, I'll keep an eye on that. All right. So using our larger brush, we can get bigger splashes of color without having to do it, you know, pixel by pixel. Another thing I want to get into as I learn the program, maybe a little too big, is backgrounds, scenes. That's probably going to be a long-term project to learn. I've heard this program is really good for doing pixel art scenes, and I'm god-awful at backgrounds. Anyone who's ever seen me draw stuff knows I can't do backgrounds at all, which is why I tend to contract that out whenever I'm getting work done. But you can do some pretty interesting things with dynamic shading using Aseprite. And you can do it on a large scale as well, which I know is not something that Photoshop does just readily because it's not designed that way. So I'll have to learn. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm roughing out some basic shapes, and we're going to try and draw Tenpo, my mascot. And Tenpo's got light teal colored eyes. So if we put an approximate spot for the eyes. Or I could just make my brush bigger and just do one at a time. There we go. If we want to go for specific sections, we can go back down to one pixel. So for his mouth, we can do that and then just fill it. Oh, considers that not closed, huh? Okay. Oh, maybe it's because there's that missing section right there. There we go. Okay. So what we've got here is a rough base set of colors that are kind of bounding and mapping in Tempo's body. He's very round. What we can do is work with different brush sizes to kind of round out the outer part, and then go in and do shading, which is going to kind of define parts of the body and the arms. And again, this is not a style of drawing I normally do. It's kind of a new method for me. I'm used to doing everything by lines with borders. So we're learning today. So by adding in the darker shadows around the limbs, this is how we're kind of defining his arms. on this part of the tail. At some point, I'm going to have to experiment around with multi-layers of shadowing and shading, since I normally only do one level of shadow. But for now, for practice, I'm just going to do one layer. Alright, let's do the mouth now. Now for the eyes, same deal on the eyes, but I want to see if I can get a little bit more of a rounded shading, and then I'm going to put the white highlights on there. They look like they're kind of shiny. It doesn't need to be exactly symmetrical, but I want it to be somewhat close. Go 2 by 2. Alright, let's zoom out and take a look. Okay, might need to add a little bit more detail and kind of round the shape out a bit more, but not a bad first attempt. Fortunately, Tenpo's design is very simple. There's not a whole lot to them. It's just kind of simple shapes, which is good. That's what I wanted in a mascot. One thing we can mess around with is, let's see how much of this the canvas is taken up. Not a ton. We could mess around with different frames of animation. That could be fun. Maybe using some deform commands to slightly translate. And we can see how that works using Aseprite. So let's see. First we'll save this. I'll call this one Tenpo. If we create a new frame, we don't need the background for this. I wonder if we can just do direct transforms to sections. Looks like it. Where's my deselect? Up there. What I did is I just scrunched up the arm a little bit. And let's do the same thing on the other side. And we'll move the whole thing down just a hair. So if we look at frame 1, what we've done is essentially a real simple kind of bouncing up and down pose. And then this is only in 2 frames. So if I loop it, it's probably going to be really quick. So let's zoom out and see. Interesting. Oh, and it shows like an onion skin. I don't remember turning that on. That's interesting. Ah, that's why. So we could use that if we wanted to see the differences in each frame. But I wonder, what if we did a simple leaping animation? I wonder if there's a way to copy this one. Okay. I kind of wanted to have it reset to the same position at the very bottom. But even just by taking the 7 frames here that I've done, this is what it looks like looping. That's actually, it's a little bit rough and not exactly a polished product by any means, but doing this is way easier than trying to do it in Photoshop because you can't do these sort of frame by frame edits. I can tell you now, having messed around at Photoshop, the way I've been able to do like crudely animated pixel art in Photoshop is very, very rough. I know this because my friend that is an actual animator looked at my process and said that is terrible. I'm not going to name names, but you can probably guess who that was. But just using Aseprite, you can do pretty simple edits to string together movement like that. Again, it's took me 2 minutes. This would have taken me half an hour to do frame by frame in Photoshop. So that's very interesting. And if we wanted to, we could even alter different parts of each frame to kind of space out more movement if we really wanted to. We could even go forward. More of a parabolic path. Let's zoom out. Actually get a good look at that. Interesting results. Again, rough. But for a first attempt at commands, that's not bad. I think we'd probably want to do something like maybe have the mouth open and have animation on the mouth and maybe the tail kind of move a little bit. But considering I know nothing about actual animation technique, it's pretty intuitive what you can do just using this base feature in Aseprite. We'll save that. And this is all locked to one layer. Grab a drink real quick. Makes me wonder if I could import into Aseprite a base ping that I've done and then edit into something animated just based on using the commands here. Put it in as its own layer and then just do translation and transformation frame by frames. Wonder. Oh, I'm gonna need one with a transparent background though. Let's do this one. This is one I used for Lost Kingdom as concept art. Didn't end up using it in the actual final product, but let's see if this works. Oh, no, I don't think I want to do that. Oh lord, it did that by a whole series of frames. What did it do? Okay, that's definitely not what I want. I wonder if I can just open it. Okay, there we go. If I just open it up as a ping, that works. Now can I drop this into our working canvas here? I wonder if I have to duplicate it. Nope. I don't know if it'll let me just copy this into another file. That's what I was trying to do, but I guess I wouldn't need to. I can do it from here as well. So if we're messing around with potential animation commands, I assume a good way to do that using this program would be to copy different sections and maybe move them, or it's kind of hard because this wasn't drawn like a multi-layer sprite. Usually they're done in layers so that you can move, you know, the head around and it's separate from the body. This is one flat image, so doing that's not necessarily as easy. But we'll see if it yields any interesting results. Like just doing those subtle changes to the head, and I can scale things using Aseprite as well. That's whoops. That is something I could not do at all in Photoshop. Scale and rotate. Rotate gets a little bit tricky because if you skew it too much, it'll distort the lines because it is working on a pixel by pixel basis. But even doing it just like that, that's interesting. Okay, what does that look like? Okay, since there's no other parts of the body moving, just kind of looks like the dragon is twitching a bit. But if you had each individual component composited separately, I don't know. I got to think about that. Would you draw each frame separately and then render it all out as separate sprite sheets? I guess you could. Interesting. A lot of potential, but I'm going to have to spend a lot more time tinkering around with this program and figuring out what does what. At this point, we won't save this. At this point, I would settle for being able to draw things here more effectively. So that'll be part of the practice for now. Let's work on another bee avatar. I took a break to work on that tempo one. Let's see. We'll duplicate the regular base. Call this one 3. Oh, there we go. I have a drag and drop. Okay. Let's see. Who should I draw one of these for next? There's another one of the regulars that we see often. Could do Red Dragon. Red Dragon hangs out here a lot. I think I know what I'd do for his. His is going to be a more dragon-themed design appropriately. I see. Lava King has redeemed a Rakufaktu. Okay. Let me consult the list. Well, I need to add to that list. Need to add more embarrassing facts about myself that you folks can learn. Add some homeworld facts at some point too. All right. Here's a personal fact about me that you may or may not know, because I don't think I've mentioned it before here. But my favorite seasons are fall and winter. I think I've mentioned it before, but I do not like hot weather. I don't mind it when it's nice. I try and get outside and touch grass every once in a while, but I like it when it's colder, and I like snow, assuming I don't have to drive in it. Fall's cool because it's the time and everything changes and it gets colder, and then winter, I like the scenic snow, and it's also time with less allergies and bugs. So there you go. That's your fact. I gotta think of some more facts to add here. Maybe I'll do that when I get a spare minute off stream. All right. So let's see. We need to draw a dragon. A red dragon at that. What if we take the helmet and we won't duplicate the same color palette that we did for Lava Kings, but I'm thinking we do like a reddish color scheme. I gotta think about that because I don't want to use the same reds. Maybe I'll do like a red-orange color and like dragon horns instead of the demon horns. So what I'll do is we'll get rid of the antenna, do the exact same process. Just duplicate all of the colors, and then we'll redraw details and see what that gets us. Okay, so let's see. How does this color compare? That is very transparent. That's not what I want. Oh, that's why. There we go. I think I know what I can do. I'll set this one apart. We can actually recolor the body. We'll do the same on the body, and then we'll add some dragon horns. Yep. Give them this kind of gnarled pattern. And maybe do yellow for the visor, because we're going to change the body to be red. So if we did yellow for the visor. Okay, that's not bad. Oh, I see. I need to do slightly different colors, I think. Otherwise, it's going to blend in with the helmet. Let's see, how much different is this? Yeah, it's different. Okay. Let's take a look. Zoom out a bit and see how that turned out. Yeah, I think that'll work. I wonder if I have the ability to swap color levels on the fly. Let's replace. Color mode. Do color replace. That's interesting. But I wonder if this does RGB sliders. Oh, here, adjustments. It's brightness, contrast. Let's try hue, saturation. If we wanted to create a palette swap. Oh yeah. You could do it just by adjusting the sliders. So what I could do for folks who maybe they're newer or I don't really know much about their like potential avatar features, I can also do color swaps really quickly to give someone a unique color B. So that's another option. I think what I'll probably do for the regulars that show up a lot is give them a customized one like we did here for these three. But we can also just do alt color ones that are in general. So that'll be really easy to do. It's good to know. Using adjustments. Color curve. What's color curve do? Oh, funky. That's messing with all of the different kind of like lighting. I don't think I've ever seen something that does that before. It's almost like a light source that changes the overall paletting, huh? Okay. Not bad. All right, let's see. So we've got base, we've got 3 custom ones. Rather than start a completely new design, because we're getting close to the 2-hour mark and I'm gonna have to wrap up for today, maybe I will do one more custom B avatar. I need to make sure I rename these at some point. Let's see, who's another regular that we see often here? I could do one for Edward. I really have to think for a second on what would make a unique avatar for Edward. We could give him jet engines instead of regular wings. Edward is one of the OGs. He might be the first person I ever encountered when I started streaming eons ago. Alright, let me see if I can kind of define the edges here. I'll do kind of like an inlet on the front of each engine and like a vent on the back. Would it be too much extra to do like jet flames? That's fun. Maybe we can do a slightly different colored helmet as well. Something like that. And for the visor, maybe the rest of the helmet rather, maybe we go like kind of a pale blue like this. A slightly darker highlight. That's fun. I want to try something. Let's do an experiment. Experiment in animation. I wonder if it's going to render that. I'll turn the background off. I wonder how it's going to animate that. If it'll show the bee zipping all the way off screen. Let's find out. Oh, it's picking up a frame in the middle. I think I know why. It's because that's there. We'd have to hide everything else to make sure it's not picking up one of the other renders. Okay. Let me make that a GIF. We'll get rid of all that. We'll keep these as one frame for now. But I wonder how that turned out. Heh. That's fun. What dimensions did that render as? 71 by 62. Yeah, same as the canvas size. I just created a little tiny GIF of the bee zipping on and off frame. That's funny. Hey, first time chat from the Fantlet. The Fantlet says, "Yo, looks cool." Thank you. Welcome to the stream. This is Baby's first experimenting with Aseprite. I have not worked with this program before, so I've been experimenting around with stuff on the stream today. So, welcome. I'm drawing custom chat avatars for my community as a way to kind of practice and figure out how this program works. So feel free to come and hang out and vibe. Let's put the background back on. Let me zoom out a little bit and get a better sense of the way this one looks. I'll kind of show off what I've been messing around with for these avatars. Let's get out in here. The Fantlet says, I made some cool stuff in Aseprite when I used to use Unity. Yeah, I can imagine for people who are working in game dev, the sprites and whatnot, asset creation in this is really good for feeding over into the actual game engine stuff. That's what I've seen a lot of people using it for. I've always wanted to get into pixel art, and one of my peers recommended this program, so that's why I'm fiddling around with it today. But what I've been doing as a way to learn is I don't normally draw this particular style of art here on stream. Let me hide this latest one. The base design for the bee here is representation of my community, the space bees. And so I took this really simple base design and have been creating custom ones for members of my community that hang out here on stream. What I'd like to do is get this hooked into stream avatars that lets you create little animated pixel sprites for people that are watching in chat, and they kind of fly around or whatever on screen. So that's what I'm doing here. Is I'm doing some custom ones to try and fit into that program to use on future streams. And so this base one is what I started with. Variation 1 for this is Lava Kings, like a volcanic space bee, demon horns. This is for one of my mods, Sour Lad. He's a bee with a lemon for a head. And this one's for Red Dragon. Red Bee with dragon horns. And this last one was for another one of my regulars with jet engines instead of regular wings. Fatlet says, I found it really useful for someone that's just starting off. You want to make it specifically as an asset, whether it be for games, in your case, Twitch icons, search up a side profile image of a bee, paste it into Aseprite and scale it down. You have a silhouette of a bee. Yeah, I could see how that'd be a really easy way to take an image and kind of repurpose it into like a pixelated or pixel sprite version. I found just in what you saw me messing around with when you jumped on here is that the ability to animate like frame by frame is really easy. I'm not an animator, but by doing multi-frames you can render out sprite sheets for something like a game or animated avatars pretty easily just by taking frame by frame and doing edits to each frame for movement or whatever you want. That's something you can't really do in Photoshop, which is what I have used in the past to do pixel art. I see. Fatlet says, I animated an ant walking cycle. It turned out very smooth. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, I haven't done walking cycles yet, but just in simple movement, you edit frame 1 or frame 2 rather, you move a leg or rotate it or scale it, and then you just repeat that till you have complete walk cycle, and then you've got each specific frame rendered out. And from what I've seen, Aseprite also just sticks all that into one big sprite sheet too, which is pretty cool. Yeah, much to learn. Today's experiment was mostly just navigation and trying to figure out how to do basic things with the program. But I'll probably revisit this program on future drawing streams as well, in the future, especially as I learn more things. Fountain asks, do you allow links? I'd like to share it if that's okay. I think I have link perms on. See if you can paste it in chat. I don't normally get a lot of links, so that's probably why it's turned on. See if it'll let you do it. If not, then I can always give you a link to the Discord that I run too. Okay. Yeah, it pasted. Let me see if I can actually view it. Okay, yeah. Pulled up an MP4. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I can see your walk cycle. Yeah, that's well done. Good job. That's way more detailed than anything I've done here today. Let's see, make sure we save our work here. Maybe I'll do some real quick palette alts before we wrap up for the day today. That's easy enough to do. Oop. Yeah, we'll do that. Calls 5. Number 5. Fantlet says, I'm happy how it turned out. Sadly, the project it belongs to got abandoned. I'll probably end up digging out assets for something else. Ah, I see. It's always annoying when that happens. I'm going to assume you're a game developer if you're working in things like Unity and working on assets. I got a lot of respect for people that can do coding and game design. I am an artist primarily and a concept designer rather, I can't code for the life of me. I've taken coding classes before in school, and they absolutely destroyed me because I don't really have the mindset to think on a coding level. I'd love to be able to make a game someday. I got plenty of ideas and assets and stuff that I could put, but I can't do anything with them because I can't code. I've learned how to do the art side, the basic design flow side, and the music side, but I can't do the coding and technical side. What are you going to do? All right. So let's see. We'll come up with some potential alts to use just by messing around with color balance or hue and saturation sliders. These could be things like general purpose avatars for people to use that are maybe just joining or something like that. Once I actually get the software for the avatar program, I'll figure out how it works. Assuming, just based on what I read, it's not rocket science to integrate into Twitch. You just have to get it set up and then I think load assets for it. I'll figure that out in the future. For this one, I'm gonna go green, kind of greenish color. I'm assuming when I actually put frames of animation for these, I'll have to do it item by item. Maybe I'll do unique flying animations with how they move. I probably won't animate the legs or wings unless I feel really ambitious. But the way they kind of float around in the air, maybe I'll uniquely do for each one and then see if that renders out. Whatever will be most efficient. We can go purple. Yeah, we don't want to make it too bright, otherwise it'll be hard to see. Oh, I think I see how color curve works now. That's an interesting way to manipulate colors. You can do it by red, RGB, or alpha. Huh. Okay, so I could create some even more unique ones just by messing around with the levels on this too. It's kind of neat. Maybe create some more varied alt palettes. Oh, got a hydrate reminder from Lava King. Almost done with my smoothie here. I kind of like the contrasting colors in the parts of the wings. All right. Well, we are past the 2-hour mark. Before it gets too late, I need to go figure out my dinner situation. So I think this was a pretty interesting experiment. Again, pretty much my first time tinkering around with the program and figuring out how to make it do what I want it to do. Since I have to work on assets for things for the stream, I'll probably be working on more stuff off stream, and maybe as I create some interesting things, I can post them over on the Discord. And I'll put let me see if the Discord command is working again. Family, if you feel so inclined and want to join the Space Speed community, feel free. Hopefully that command is working now. Hooray, it wasn't working before. I don't know exactly why. Love King says remember to save. Oh, believe me, I've saved several times. But I appreciate the reminders. In fact, whenever I'm working on something like anything, primarily art stuff, which we do every once in a while here, I have no problem with people telling me to save every, like 15 minutes or so, because if I do something and forget and lose my work, then it's really embarrassing. And I've done that on the music streams as well. It's nothing like putting together a fun loop of sounds and then accidentally switching files and losing all my work. I've done that a couple times, and it is incredibly embarrassing when that happens. So, good looking out. But before we jump off for the day, let me see who on the homie list is online that we can raid and spread some good vibes to. Let's see, go over to the main page on Twitch. Demon Otter Games is also doing arts. I have not rated them in a hot minute. So we can go ahead and head over there. So let me cue this up. And we will switch BGM off and go to outro. And that being said, we will commence the raid. So thanks again for the folks who came by and hung out today and watched me blunder my way through a brand new program. I think we'll be able to take these assets and use them for something cool in the future. But we will be back this Sunday is the plan right now according to the schedule. I will be doing a jam stream working on music stuff. If any changes, I'll post it on Twitter. But in the meantime, hope everyone has a great evening. Now let's go see what the